fellow Americans.
Let's talk about the situation at the border. We've seen a huge surge in migrants crossing the border since January. The number of children in custody higher than it was than its 2019 peak during the Trump administration. Your colleague Veronica Escobar of Texas called the conditions there unacceptable. She was there on Friday. Is she right? What more must be done?
Actually, the facts are these. There are more children, about 600-700 more children, unaccompanied children, coming over the border. This is a humanitarian challenge to all of us. What the administration has inherited is a broken system at the border, and they are working to correct that in the children's interest. I'm so pleased that the president, as a temporary measure, has sent FEMA to the border in order to help facilitate the children going from one 72-hour issue into where they are cared for as they are transferred into family homes or homes that are safe for them to be.
And I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021 when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries. That puts America at war. This is about preventing war. It's always been about preventing war. My husband is a combat veteran. He's deployed now. The last thing I want him or any of his military brothers and sisters to do is to go to war.
But I think it is time to give the Ukrainians more help hitting these bases inside Russia.
One of the reasons that the administration has hesitated is because they believe it will escalate things even further with Russia pull the U.S. further in. Why not? Why do you think that's a good idea?
Because it's Russia that has escalated this war. Russia has learned how to pull its forces back out of the range where we have allowed Ukraine to use our weapons and get our support.
American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they've done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States are not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it. That is not journalism. It is government propaganda. Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people. At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin. Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. They've never heard his voice. That's wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in, and we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too.
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III.
A U.S. official has confirmed to CBS News President Biden has given authorization for Kyiv to use U.S.-supplied long-range weapons to strike deep into Russian territory.
I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI does not and has no interest in
You won't answer the question about whether or not that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer it. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. And your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you.
British police came into the embassy and arrested.
After a long flight from the UK, Julian Assange's day began on the island of Saipan, a tiny territory chosen because it's the closest US court to Australia. This normally quiet courthouse, swarming with reporters, as the WikiLeaks founder arrived flanked by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd.
Individual used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
What I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
So what is the threat to democracy? People on both sides, people in power, saying out loud that they want to control what you get to hear and see. It is real, it is a threat, and it is happening and growing. And I'll tell you what, punishing thought is on the agenda. And I just heard it from someone who's not a kook, not Alex Jones, not Tucker Carlson, one of the most sober and intelligent politicians of our time, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
I think it's important to indict the Russians, just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg admitted that the Biden administration repeatedly pressured Meta to censor content, including information about Hunter Biden, and Zuck admitted that he also regrets complying with these demands. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Representative Jim Jordan, Zuck writes, quote, "The FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it."
You know, you do some tweets that seem to be, or at least give support to some who would call others conspiracy theories.
Well, yes, but I mean, honestly, you know, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in awe of Ms. Jankowicz. When the department picked her, did it know that she had said that Mr. Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation? Did it know that she had vouched for the veracity of the Steele dossier?
Senator, let me repeat myself and add an additional fact. One, we do not discuss internal hiring processes.
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech.
To be a conspiracy theorist is to have been right all along, despite the efforts of the paid-for liars. And it's also to be demonstrably well ahead of the gullible, still believing in smoke and mirrors. Conspiracy theorist was first used by the CIA to shut down those who doubted the official line about the murder of John F. Kennedy, that fishy old tale about a lone shooter and a magic bullet, and then that lone shooter being shot by another lone shooter before he could talk. That was in the 1960s, and from then, the label conspiracy theorist worked for decades as the means to make thinking people too scared to speak when they smelt a rat. Let 2024 be the year of clearing out the rubbish, the trash, the long overdue year when the past or sell-by date labels, conspiracy theorist among them, are cast into the dustbin of history.
Welcome, everybody, to Redacted on this Thursday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And on this show, we cover the stories the mainstream media largely ignores. We have to sift through a big, giant, heaping pile of propaganda from the Uniparty, which is what we seem to navigate on a regular basis. Fear the Uniparty as we look at the latest Epstein tranche of documents and emails, and Massey has the votes to force the House of Representatives to come forward and release the Epstein files. But it was not for lack of trying. I mean, the Trump administration, Kash Patel, they all got together to try to stop Lauren Boebert and others from actually voting to allow the release of the Epstein files.
Now, this doesn't mean we'll see them. This means that every member of Congress in the House has to vote on whether or not to release
Put their name on
them.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then how would you like to go down in the history books as someone who voted no? There clearly are mostly Republicans willing to do that. So we're going to talk in a second about what we have seen so far with selective releasing of Epstein documents. And yeah, it seems like both sides are dirty.
Also, maybe a name that hasn't gotten a lot of coverage and gets to fly under the radar as Trump's chief of staff, that is Susie Wiles. Well, seems like if you want to look to where the MAGA movement has been destroyed and where the Civil War might be coming from, you could probably look at one source, and that is Susie Wiles, the gatekeeper of President Trump. And we shouldn't let President Trump get off the hook on this at all. He's fully aware that she is acting as the gatekeeper and as basically the destroyer of the MAGA movement, inviting Albert Bourla into the White House from Pfizer, scuttling the moves by the Maha movement and RFK Jr. We have a laundry list of things we're going to talk about today, and how Susie Wiles needs to go right now, needs to be fired. Otherwise, this entire project is going to go up in flames.
Plus, the new Israeli line is, hey, we don't need your money. That's fine. We'll go without it. What are they playing at? Raise your hand if you believe that. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about why the White House now wants to put you on hormones, weight loss drugs. What is all of this?
Ozempic,
Ozempic and Wegovy. So what's happening there? Why are we being asked to go on drugs? I thought that we were, no Tylenol, but yes, estrogen. You might get a stroke. This is weird, right? So we're going to talk about all of that.
All of that and more as Redacted starts right now. So good to see you guys on this Thursday. Let us know where you're joining us from. If you're watching us on Rumble, on YouTube, on X, all of the different platforms you're listening to, the audio version of the podcast. Yes, we have an audio version of the podcast. And by the way, I checked our numbers on the audio version of the podcast, and hundreds of thousands of you listen to the audio version. Many of you say, hey, I'm a long-haul truck driver. I can't watch the show, so I listen while I'm driving across the country. So we love all of you who managed to listen to us on our audio podcast as well.
All right. Well, it's time to agree that the Epstein files are being politically weaponized by both parties in an effort to distract us from the fact that both parties are implicated. Now, today, Democrats released this email with a graphic. This is from Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Summers. We're going to get to him in a second. He's a very senior Democratic operative. And the graphic that goes along with it is him saying, I've met some really bad people. Trump's really the worst. He's the worst. Now, in the comments section, people are saying, don't you want pedophiles to not like you? That's kind of a good thing. Now, they are also releasing many emails of Epstein saying that he was always with Trump. We're always together. We're the besties. He knows him well. This one is striking. Basically, he says Trump is a big, dumb pervert. Too dumb to know when he's being framed and that he's doing bad things. Now, who this is between is Epstein and Larry Summers, who definitely is a pervert. Summers was an economic advisor to Presidents Clinton and Obama. He worked in their administrations. He was the first Jewish president of Harvard. He ran the World Bank. So think about the financial ties, links that he's got access to. Here is him saying that, there are law firms that keep turning Trump down. This is in 2017. So Trump is already the president. Can we put that back up again? I'm sorry, I got to it a little too fast. So Larry Summers, they're talking about, no one will represent Trump. And they give this surmise of his personality, like, sure, he's crude, he's ignorant, he's dumb, he, is kind of greedy, he's uncouth, he's financially sketchy. Oh, and Russia. And Epstein says, yeah, he's just too dumb to know he's dumb. So that seems to be the continuing, like, I'm with Trump all the time. I know him. I know what's going to happen in his campaign. But he's really just kind of a slimy dummy, basically, is how he characterizes him. Democrats are highlighting this email with Epstein saying that they spent Thanksgiving together during the first term that, the first year that Trump was president in 2017. Now, it's verifiable that Trump is in Mar-a-Lago for his first Thanksgiving as president. Epstein did have a place nearby. This person is asking, where are you around Thanksgiving and who's around? And he mentions Trump. He doesn't say, we have dinner together. It seems to be he's saying who is around this resort town in Florida. It very well could be, though. No one has ever captured images of Epstein at Mar-a-Lago for Thanksgiving. We don't know. So maybe somebody will. Maybe someone's seen that and I haven't. We don't know. Again, it's just like they're giving us this piecemeal and we are being forced to extrapolate. Now, Summers, again, a Democratic leader, a few months later checks in to talk some smack about President Trump. This line does really turn my stomach. I highlighted it. He says, hey, guy, how are you? You know, how's life among the lucrative and louche? Now, I had to look that word up. Do you know what that is? It's an SAT word, I guess.
Louche?
Louche. And maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong because I've never said it. It means like deliciously naughty, deviant in a sexy way.
I'm going to start using
like 50 Shades of Grey. No, we're not going to. I think we shouldn't use this. It's like.
Want to have a louche date night tonight?
It's almost like book title. Exactly what Jeffrey Epstein was. Lucrative, yes, because he was involved in all of this financial espionage. And louche, yes, he was a pervert. I don't find that sexy. He was a pervert in the bad way, but Summers is saying you're a pervert in the sexy way. Dudes.
We can start calling them louche bags.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine talking to your guy friends about that?
That's so weird.
How are you, you little dandy?
No one ever talks like that. No one that I know talks like that.
That you're saying to your friend,
but maybe I'm not a billionaire banking
you're
pedophile
a dirty guy
either.
and in a sexy way.
I guess this is how like dirty billionaire pedophiles talk.
I suppose
like,
they do.
You have to be in that club to talk that way.
Well, I mean,
hey, you dandy.
I don't talk.
Oh, then those are obviously the guys that wrote the Tyler Robinson email or text messages.
Right.
You lover.
They got the billionaire pedophile class to write those fake text messages. Yeah.
Right. Let me know in the chat. Have you ever heard this word before? And would you use it guy to guy? I wouldn't even use it to one of my friends because I actively try to avoid friends that are louche.
Starduster says louche labs is a real thing. What's a louche lab? A dandy is something different. Is someone at least?
I don't know if I would look that up on the internet.
Let's
be honest.
not.
I would be.
Louche-ricative. Walk the talk. Normal people don't speak that way. Aunt M says, yeah.
It's like you know all the synonyms for pervert, and you use them regularly in your emails. How much of a pervert do you have to be that you know synonyms for them and use them in a deviant way? Right? Okay. So that's what we need to think about. Larry Summers, where are we? He goes on to discuss President Trump as like, that guy's just lucky. He just keeps getting lucky, you know, because he's so dumb and perverted that he just keeps getting lucky. Of course, there should also be copious communication about the Clintons. We haven't seen that yet. One reason being that the Clintons delayed their deposition. It was supposed to be last week. They didn't show up. They say that it was rescheduled. Raise your hand if you believe they will show. There's also a strange email between Epstein and one of Obama's top lawyers. Kathy Remler was a Justice Department lawyer for Obama before becoming White House counsel under Obama. She left that position in the summer of 2014, and she joined a private law firm. Now, look at this email written in September of 2014. Here, again, she has already left the White House. These are not beautiful screenshots. I apologize. But she's saying, he is saying to her, you need to talk to boss. And she says, yes, I will talk to boss. Now, she has left the Obama administration by this time, but it's not unlikely that she would continue to refer to Obama as boss. It is unlikely that her current boss at her private law firm would be going to UNGA, what she says here, boss in town this week for UNGA. That is the United Nations General Assembly, and we know that Obama did, in fact, come to town for UNGA just a few days later. So her email is September 19th saying Obama's coming to town for the United Nations. Obama does do that. So what is she talking to Obama about at the behest of Jeffrey Epstein? Bueller? Anybody? We don't know.
No, a lot of these people had cozy relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of these people in power, a lot of these people had email exchanges at the highest levels that we're learning.
Yes.
So I'm not surprised by this at all.
Okay, so again, this is a both sides issue, right? We're not slinging mud at either side. I hope that becomes clear. The Democrats are just as implicated as anyone else, and maybe Trump too, possibly. We just can't trust this selective dump that we're getting right now. Maybe we'll get it since the House of Representatives will vote on a bipartisan Epstein Files Transparency Act in December after a discharge position did secure the required 218 signatures in the House on Wednesday. That means it triggers a mechanism to compel the measure to the floor for a vote, because Speaker Johnson never really wanted to put it up. In plain terms, it means now that every member of the House has to go on record voting to either protect Jeffrey Epstein and his wealthy clientele of pedophiles or not. So they will have to vote. Now, interesting enough, most Democrats are voting for this, even though they understand that it implicates the higher-ups in their party. Republicans are not. Discuss. Why?
Why? What's the question?
Republicans are... there were only 4 Republicans who voted for Massey's bill.
Yeah.
So why are Republicans voting against releasing the Epstein files when that was one of their base's main issues in the 24 election?
Because, again, they run on these things. They use these types of cultural rallying points as a uniparty. And then when they get into power, they ignore those things. And they are part of the uniparty. So you have brave people like Massey. You have, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who stood her ground on this. You have Lauren Boebert, who said she's going to vote for this, to move this forward.
Yeah.
Look, I think they're covering up for... I think Tara Palmieri reported yesterday that when these names drop, there's going to be about 30 or to 60 individuals from both sides of the aisle who are going to be implicated at a high level. So everyone is involved in this. And there's only a few people that are brave enough to stand up for it. But both parties, it's a uniparty in Washington, D.C., and they're all implicated.
Why have Democrats suddenly decided they're for this? Because they're not in power, and Republicans are deciding they're against it because it seems like the marching orders from President Trump is to treat it as if it's nothing.
Well, they're hoping that there's something in these documents that will implicate Trump, I'm pretty sure.
You think that that's what Republicans want?
No, I think that's what the Democrats are, why the Democrats would want to move on this.
Go ahead, Philip.
I mean, I think they would gladly sacrifice the Clintons to take Trump down. The Clintons don't have. The Clintons don't have the sway over the younger voters that they think they do. Obviously,
no. Their time has passed. Their time is gone, and it's new blood. And so if they can, if they can go to their districts and if they can go to their constituents. By the way, these people are going to be flooded with phone calls because we're going to make sure that these people are flooded with phone calls from your representatives, like calling your representative, like. You have an opportunity to vote to release these documents next week. Your name will now be assigned to it. We want it. If they're going to be overwhelmed with phone calls, and so these Democrats will say, "I voted for it. I voted for transparency." Why did Republicans? It's all politics. They're playing with this list.
And you think Republicans are voting against it because Trump has told them to?
Well, he personally called them. They had a freaking meeting in the Situation Room for crying out loud. I mean, they're trying to prevent this from going out anywhere.
But I also point out that Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert were in that meeting with the victims, and they came out visibly upset. That could probably have a lot to do with why they stood their ground. There could be some really damaging stuff coming out.
Right. I mean, and Nancy Mace said that in her statement yesterday. I mean, that she met with these victims. It's absolutely horrible stuff. She didn't even want to talk to the cameras when she came out of it. And you know that Nancy Mace loves the cameras, let's be honest. So the fact that she walked by and she was crying and visibly shaken, she's like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I can only imagine what this stuff is. It's absolutely horrible stuff. And they don't want to investigate it, and they're allowing it to perpetuate. I don't know if you saw this Tim Tebow thing today. This really hit me. He was just interviewed and he talked about, because he's been on a crusade against child trafficking and child porn and all of this horrible, horrible stuff. I said the number of people in the New York area that are just downloading this stuff on a regular basis, they know they're downloading it and they're not even investigating it. So just allowing this to proliferate, and it certainly proliferates in the halls of Congress. And I think these people have had enough. We need to throw all these rat bastards out.
Yeah. Okay, let's transition to a different group of rat bastards, the press. Because it's clear to me that the press has been active in not only burying the Epstein story and impugning anybody who brought it up over the last decade, but also befriending Epstein. This guy is Landon Thomas from the New York Times. You can see here that he wrote for the Times from 2002 to 2019. In 2008, he wrote this. Look at this, July 1st, 2008, about Epstein starting his prison sentence. He flew back from his Caribbean island to report for his prison sentence. That was written by Landon Thomas. Fast forward to the year 2017, 9 years later, the two are buddies. He's emailing Epstein directly and warning him about another reporter that's digging around about him and saying, no, I'll tell him you're a good guy. What? You know he's not a good guy. You reported this a decade ago. How did you go from reporting that, getting that assignment, to being his bestie? New York Times has not answered for this. But, it's funny. Today, the New York Times took a swipe at Matt Gaetz and the case against Matt Gaetz and the underage girlfriend. And they totally left out the bit about the girlfriend and her lover, and how they had sort of, they don't care. So from their high horse, they sling mud, and they are literally besties with Epstein and covering up for them. So middle finger to the New York Times. I wish the worst for your business. And then there are emails from USA Today reporter Michael Wolff. Here he is telling Epstein that CNN has given him debate questions. What the hell, CNN? And that Trump will, in fact, be asked about Epstein. So he's essentially acting as Epstein's press advisor, publicist, if you will, having leaked questions from CNN. So again, there's a middle finger to USA Today and CNN, both of them. Now, here's his explanation today. It's weaselly. I'm only going to play you about 30 seconds. All he says is yeah, I've been trying to tell you about Trump and Epstein. He makes no explanation for the fact that he is acting as Epstein's publicist. Watch.
This morning, the House Oversight Committee released emails directly linking Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, some of those emails are between Epstein and me, with Epstein discussing his relationship with Donald Trump. I have been trying to talk about this story for a very long time now. And this is, perhaps we're getting close to the smoking gun.
That is unsatisfactory.
He's a little weasel. He wants to drip, 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 little information.
I told you.
I'm Michael Wolff. I'm a great USA Today reporter. Yeah, I was cozy with a pedophile, and I was also getting fed information from CNN. So we're all one big circle jerk. But I'm gonna start to write some more articles. So you probably want to start to read them at usatoday.com, and I'm going to start to trickle out some information about how we're getting close to the smoking gun. That's what these douchebags are doing. I'm so sick of these people.
It's loosh bags.
Loosh bags. That's when I punch him in his loosh sack.
Yeah, that is an odious person who is not accepting. It's a masterclass in how to redirect from your own involvement as a pedophile's publicist. So here are also some connections to Steve Bannon, which have not been explained. Here is Steve Bannon giving Epstein talking points on Fed Chair Jay Powell. So listen,
he's mentioned over 1,700 times in these emails. 1,700 Steve Bannon is.
So yeah, and this is, again, it seems very much that he knows that Epstein is involved in a financial cabal. And he's talking about, how do we get rid of Powell, give some talking points. It seems to me that he wants to pass these talking points on to President Trump through Steve Bannon, and Bannon is here for it. It would seem to me Steve Bannon doesn't really need that, But why? Yeah, I mean, just why? So again, here's what we cannot do, you guys. We cannot take this as a partisan issue. Both sides are dirty. We will clearly see more than sexual deviance. Clearly, the financial cabal is their day job, and then the pedophilia is the side hustle. Here's what we must now vow. Do not defend or believe the press. Do not defend or believe either party or either any one politician. We just can't know enough. Right now, it seems they are all slimy by implication. Do not use the word louche. And if your friends are found to be louche, find new friends.
Run away.
Yeah. Look for some new friends. That's what I think you should do. Like, once you know that... Sure, I'm sure we all have like people in our lives. We don't know what dark deeds they're up to. If you find that out, get some new friends. How about that? Okay?
Good. That's good advice.
Life lessons
Good
for
advice.
you.
We've got a lot more news to get to here on your Thursday. Mike Adams is going to be joining us because the Maha movement looks like it's being destroyed by Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff. But it just doesn't even stop at the Maha movement. She's actively really scuttling what we all had kind of hoped for with Trump's presidency. And I know that Trump has to be fully aware of this, so why hasn't he fired her yet? But we're going to talk about the destruction that's being done to the Maha movement in a moment. But first, you guys have heard of the bearskin hoodie, right? My favorite hoodie. Well, smart people are locking in their winter gear right now because you get 60% off. 60% off if you want to get the world's best hoodie, in my opinion. I wear this every morning when I'm walking the dog, now that it's nice and cold. And if it starts to rain, it's great. You can put the heavy storm rain jacket right over top of it, and it becomes 100% waterproof when you need it. This thing is built like a tank, 340 GSM microfleece, 10 pockets, clean, rugged fit that really looks awesome. You'll get free U.S. shipping, fast delivery, and then you've locked in your winter gear already. That's a win-win for everybody. So do yourself a favor. Grab your bearskin right now. By the way, I'm wearing a bearskin t-shirt right now. This is from, I love these t-shirts. I got one for my son as well. It's got the bear on the side, and it's got the American flag on the back, on the other arm. So you can check out all sorts of stuff on their website. The best part is, too, when you support bearskin, you're also supporting the Fallen Outdoors and the Hope for the Warriors Veterans Program. So you're not just buying great gear, you're also backing a cause that matters. So right now, do yourself a favor, text the word redacted to 36912 to lock in your 60% off. Again, text the word redacted to 36912. You will get a link sent straight to your phone so you can check it out, later if you're busy right now. So don't wait till you're freezing to realize your hoodie sucks. Get a bearskin, 60% off. Text the word redacted to 36912. That's the place to go. Well, is Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, ruining his presidency and, by proxy, the MAGA movement? It sure seems that way. And Trump knows it, by the way. We can't, treat him as a toddler. Maybe he doesn't know. He's not a toddler. He's the president of the United States. He's not a comatose, brain-dead Joe Biden, who clearly didn't know. He knows what's going on, and he has to know that she's ruining the entire MAGA movement and Maha by proxy. So why hasn't he fired her yet? Now we're learning new information from Dr. Stephen Hatfill and Gray Delaney, who were fired from HHS over the summer. They're blowing the whistle now, saying that Susie Wiles is destroying the Maha movement on purpose, controlling everything that RFK does. And Brett Weinstein, I think yesterday on the Joe Rogan show, or maybe 2 days ago on the Joe Rogan show, says that he is unclear as to exactly what's happening, but he's watching this destruction happen in real time. People who've gone to the administration like Robert Kennedy, and they're completely being blocked. Well, he wonders why. Watch.
I'm watching, in many cases, my friends pulled into the administration with a lot of momentum behind them, and I'm watching something seemingly prevent the promise that was there from being realized. Right?
You're talking about RFK.
Well, I'm talking about, RFK. I was just with Jay Bhattacharya. There's something that when the good people get to Washington and try to do the right thing, there is an architecture that drains them, that wastes their efforts, that places roadblocks, that causes them to back their objectives way off. And I don't know what it is.
I have a theory of what it is and who's getting in the way. Susie Wiles and her gatekeepers. This is a story that's, by the way, getting bigger by the moment. And Mike Adams has been following this story closely. He joins us once again to talk about this and so much more. Mike is the founder of Brighton AI, naturalnews.com, call him the Health Ranger, and one of the sharpest independent voices out there. He cannot be swayed. Mike, welcome back to the show. Great to see you.
It's great to be back. An honor to be on your show.
My pleasure. So when you see, seeing these stories now emerging about Susie Wiles from people who were on the inside, and they're seeing it happen, the scuttling of the Maha movement of RFK and what he's been trying to do, does it surprise you? And have you heard similar things?
Well, I've been kind of hands off, waiting patiently about Susie Wiles, but I'm gonna break that here today on your show since you invited me on. In my opinion, I think she's absolutely toxic to not just the Donald Trump administration, but also to the Maha movement and the GOP as a whole. In fact, I would say on the current trajectory, although there's still time to turn this around, but on the current trajectory, Trump is going to be facing a Democrat sweep in the House a year from now, and the White House will be lost in 2028 unless they turn this around. And Susie Wiles, I believe, in my opinion, is the key gatekeeper, as you said. Her history is, in my view, horrific, with Mercury Public Affairs representing some of what I would consider to be the worst of the corporations in the world. Any corporation, we're talking about Pfizer, we're talking about the Gavi Vaccine Alliance, we're talking about companies that promoted pesticides and herbicides that harm human health on a widespread basis. Plus, she campaigned for Netanyahu in 2020. I mean, it's almost as if Susie Wiles looks around the world for the most evil corporations and people that she can find and says, hey, I want to help you push some propaganda. Right. It's that bad.
No, that's a great point. I mean, the Netanyahu piece alone. So she worked on his re-election campaign in 2020. I had a friend who worked on that same campaign and left and said how corrupt Netanyahu was. Everyone knew how corrupt he was. So she stayed on. Like, that's the thing. Like, there were people who knew how corrupt Netanyahu was and left, and she stayed on to promote him. And then, of course, is rewarded with a chief of staff position.
Yeah, and Trump, he's being isolated from the American people. And this is very evident in many of his comments about the economy, for example. The American people are struggling. Small businesses are struggling. The economy is in an implosion. And by the way, I hope you don't mind me saying that this excuse that they lost the October jobs numbers, like the dog ate my homework at the federal government, this is not going to fly with economists. It smacks of a kind of desperate cover-up that is indicative of a collapsing administration, in my opinion. I'm sad to say that. I want Trump to succeed. I want Maha to succeed. I believe that RFK Jr. has in his heart all the good faith efforts to try to radically reform our country and bring back health, but he is being stopped at every turn, and so is Trump.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I personally want that. I can't speak for anyone else. I personally want Trump to succeed in a big, big way, and I love the idea to him, some music playing, he walks in the Oval Office and he says, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. This ship is going down fast and we need to turn this around quickly. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think these people are locked in. They control a lot of things. And then people like RFK Jr. are being pushed to the side, trying to push this Make America Healthy Again agenda. And here we are. We've gotten a few wins, right? Red dye, things like that. I'm sure there are, definitely a few wins. And I thought Maha, specifically RFK, was the brightest spot in all of the Trump administration. But now we see it's being completely handicapped. He's standing there, forced to stand there behind Albert Bourla from Pfizer in the White House. Now they're pushing Ozempic as part of Medicaid. They're pushing like these weight loss drugs, which you know how detrimental those are. Like, so I think it's Susie Wiles who's setting up these meetings and is allowing and facilitating all of this to happen.
Well, I think both RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz in their minds are silently screaming at having to be put through this, because I know Dr. Oz also. I was on his show many years ago in New York City, and he is a man of great compassion for human beings, and he knows about nutrition and natural health. And I believe that RFK Jr. also, he has documented, he knows very well the dangers of excessive, pharmaceutical mass medication of children, mass vaccination without justification, lacking scientific support, evidence of efficacy and safety, and so on. So I think those two men are really in turmoil right now, in my view. But there's a bigger picture in all of this, which is that in terms of America being able to compete with countries like China, which is graduating so many STEM graduates in the sciences and mathematics, and really excelling at so many areas of technology, from robotics and drones to AI, if we don't radically reform our health in America, we will never be able to cognitively compete with China. So this isn't even about, oh, is this just a big pharma takeover? Yeah, but they're crippling our nation to be able to compete long-term in the global ecosystem. We need brighter people, and your brain doesn't work well when you grow up and you're on medications and junk foods and vaccines all day long. That does not work. So that's a big reason why we have to have really radical reforms, but they're just not happening.
No, and I was hoping, we lived in Europe for about 5 years, and when we came back, well, one of the things that when we moved there, just while the kids were young, to give them that experience, we went into the lunchroom, and I'll never forget, we were like looking at this school, and all of these kids were walking by with like a roast chicken, vegetables, like healthy food, and they were not obese. They were happy. They were happy to have their fish, their fresh fish with just like salt and little olive oil, whatever it was, right? But it was all healthy food. And that's how my kids got to eat for like 5 years with the school lunches. And then we moved back to the United States, a couple of years ago, and the kids just don't want to eat the lunches anymore. They're serving French toast sticks as our lunch, Mom, like Dad, like can we? And so we pack them and make them a lunch every day, like as part of this process. I thought like school lunches would have been like a huge thing, like a very easy thing, like a low-hanging fruit to come out. No movement at all. Silence.
Well, there's so much money in the processed food industry. And by the way, don't forget Susie Wiles represented, Nestle and a lot of the processed food companies over the years that make products that are loaded with things like high fructose corn syrup that food scientists will tell you absolutely contribute to both type 2 diabetes as well as obesity. And Trump's answer to this has been very disappointingly, let's make the injections, the weight loss injections, more affordable so more Americans can inject themselves. President Trump, I'll tell you, that is not the answer to the health problems. What you're going to have is you're going to have a nation of obese people who then are paralyzing the vagus nerve in their body with these injections that for many people, I mean, have you seen the side effects on the websites of some of these companies? They say it can make you blind. They say it can give you cancer. The side effects are horrific.
Permanent diarrhea.
Yeah. We're going to become a zombie nation if this is the approach. And that's sad to me. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see healthy, free, abundant Americans. I want to live among people who themselves are healthy and wealthy and wise and have good longevity and happiness in their lives. And this is not, what Trump is giving us right now is not going to produce that. It's going to produce devastation, destitution, and death, frankly. That's where this is headed.
The other piece of this, and that's terrifying and very well said, it's devastating. I mean, there's no way we're going to compete on an international scale when our children are walking around like zombies with on these antidepressants, SSRIs, highly processed food from their school lunches and everything else. But now take this weight loss drug that you can shove into your belly, stick it in your stomach, and you'll be fine. Like you'll just lose the weight. It's deeply disturbing. And
here's what I'm drinking. Right? Like here's my smoothie. Because I advocate nutrition and I practice nutrition. And I know both of you do as well. And see, that's what works. We've got to get back to basics. And as long as Susie Wiles is the gatekeeper, the processed food companies and big pharma, they're always going to have Trump's attention. And we're never going to get good results from that. So Susie Wiles has to go.
And the other piece of this, and I'll just get you out of here on this, Mike, which is the gatekeeping on the press side of things. I can tell you from our own team that does a great job, booking guests. Our folks. I've expressed this concern to people who are close to the White House. They will not do interviews with alternative media at all, unless you're like an Access, MAGA influencer type that hangs out in Washington, D.C. And the types. They're just trying to be like Fox News. They're not actually independent journalists. You know who I'm talking about. These people. So they will not, these same people are not allowing RFK Jr. to do interviews. They gatekeep interviews. You can't even get to them. So like RFK, like I could text him right now, but he'll have to still run it through these people, and then they have to apologize. Like Tom Homan won't do interviews unless it's Fox News, because they need a narrow talking point, funnel in which to operate. And Susie Wiles and that team is controlling all of it.
Well, 1 year after the election, currently Maha is failing, MAGA is losing its base, and the things that they campaigned on are being betrayed. The segment you just had earlier about the Epstein files is another great example. And also, where are the mass arrests of the traitors? Because you know very well, if the Democrats sweep back into power, they're going to have 1,000 people arrested in 90 days, probably some people that are in the Trump administration right now. So these people had better fight as if their freedom depends on it. They better fight for the principles they campaigned on, or they're going to lose everything.
Mike Adams, founder of Brighton.ai. Rita's great work.
Brighteon.
Brighteon. Okay.
Thank you.
I always read it and I never say it,
No worries. Yeah, Brighteon.
Brighteon.ai. Yep. By the way, just tell our audience about this, because for people who like kind of crap on AI, you've really been a leader in explaining like why this decentralized is so important. Maybe you could just explain to our audience a little bit.
Yeah, we spent 2 years and about $2 million building a decentralized AI engine that we put out for free. And it's trained on all independent alternative media, plus websites like Children's Health Defense and ours, Natural News, and Mercola.com and so on. It's by far the best engine for answering questions about health, nutrition, and superfoods and disease prevention. So, I would offer this free of charge to HHS. If they want it, I'll donate it. I'll donate it to RFK Jr. if they would use it, but they won't because it doesn't promote pharmaceuticals. There you go.
We need more people like Mike Adams. Mike, great to see you. Thank you so much for stopping in on this Thursday.
Thank you both.
We really appreciate it.
God bless.
Much love to you. God bless.
All right, we have more to get to. We're going to talk about why HHS is pushing hormone replacement therapy. I would like to talk, us ladies, about hormones. You're going to stick around if you're a man, because this is important. We're also going to talk about Israel. They're saying now, we don't want U.S. aid. What is this propaganda? Because if you believe that, I got a carbon credit to sell you.
No, last week when I saw Laura Loomer, she came back from Israel and she said, I had this revelation while I was there. No more aid to Israel. U.S. needs to cut it off. No more. This golden handcuffs. And I said, something's fishy about this. And then a few days later, now Netanyahu is saying the same thing.
So once you see the talking points roll out, then it's time to sit and try and figure it out. We're going to do that together. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about our friends over at Chapter, because Medicare annual enrollment period is here. This is the time to choose your 2026 plan. Now, you may think you have a good plan, but what you might not know is that a lot of those prices are going up in the new year. That is going to leave millions of seniors stuck either overpaying or undercovered. And most Medicare agents care more about their commissions than your coverage. That's why we want you to call Chapter, because they are the opposite. They are the only Medicare advisor that compare every plan nationwide to find the one that truly fits your needs. Their advisors get paid the same amount regardless of which plan they recommend to you. So they are not motivated to push you into any steering at all. They will help you find what works for you. They are saving their average customers $1,100 a year. Even if you're already on a plan, you might want to look into how you might optimize your Medicare coverage in 2026 so that you're not stuck paying more or stuck with a plan that has changed as well and won't work for you. So they can help you switch quick and easy if you need to. Don't let the system take advantage of you. Call 202-655-5811 to get honest advice from people who know Medicare inside and out. And one more time, you can go to askchapter.org/redacted, or you can call them 202-655-5811. All right, well, there are new talking points for the pro-Israel influencers. It is now, Israel doesn't need your money. Israel should stop accepting it. The pro-Zionists are saying, yes, we should end foreign aid to Israel. That's a little bit confusing, given the fact that the last 3 years we've been sold this propaganda that Israel is our greatest ally. We get a lot from it. how is we
get a lot of intelligence from them.
Right.
There are bulwark in the Middle East, so therefore that's why it's good for us to send billions there, so we get so much in return.
So we should be skeptical when paid influencers begin saying the same thing. We learned this during the war in Ukraine. We've seen this all along from Israel. So now let's sort of just go through what we've been sold for the last, let's say, 3 years. First, it was October 7th. Israel has a right to defend itself. Then it was we get a lot from the military aid we send to Israel, American jobs, we get intelligence, we have an ally in the region. Israel essentially acts as our aircraft carrier for all the battles we want to wage in the Middle East. Then it was the Bible. The Bible tells us we have to do that. Now, most recently, the line was, who cares about Israel? I'm an America only. I don't care. Let them fight it out. That is an ignorant take and disingenuous because we paid for that genocide. That's a theft. Any war we wage is a theft from the working class. So you can't just say, I don't care, and expect to be taken seriously. Here's the new talking point. Yeah, you know what? You're right. This is, foreign aid to Israel should end. And that feels very disarming because it's like fighting with your husband when you're really going and you're, launching your bangers. You don't take out the trash. You don't help me. I'm busy with the kids. And then your husband's like, yeah, you're right. I'll do better. Let's have a hug. And you're like, wait a minute. What? That's what I just said. That's what I wanted. So are they disarming us on purpose?
But then we can be clear. You keep going even after there's an apology. Then it's
I can't.
But I just want to circle back around and just point out that I'm not done. I just want to keep going. I just want to keep going. I just want to keep going. Yeah, but I've already apologized and we already. Yeah, but I just want to keep going.
You're right. I'm sorry.
We've seen it live.
What? Yeah. I don't know where to go with this. I think that this is
marriage
somehow. And, maybe it's a way to call me anti-Semitic because they're saying, we agreed with you, but you still think that because you're anti-Semitic that we have an angle. You don't believe us because you're anti-Semitic. Well, I don't believe them because I've looked at the math. But let's look at some examples of how this new talking point's being rolled out, and then we'll look and see if we believe them. Here is Netanyahu today saying exactly this.
It's on the Axios news site, and it says, Scoop. Israel seeks 20-year military aid deal with US with America First tweaks. Is that correct?
I don't know what they're talking about. My direction is the exact opposite. When I first became prime minister in 1996, I went to the U.S. Congress and we were receiving financial aid and military aid. And I said, the first thing is, we're going to build a high-tech, free market capitalist economy. We don't need the financial aid, phase it out. And everybody gasped, how dare he, this young prime minister, eager for a PR title. He's giving up billions of dollars. And I was happy to do it, and I was right to do it. So we got rid of that. Now I want to make our arms industry independent, totally as independent as possible. So my direction is the exact opposite. I don't know who's talking for Israel. I do. So follow what I say, not what is put forward in some leaks that are not true.
So, Prime Minister, you think it's time to cut military aid entirely from the US?
I think it's time to assure that Israel is independent. Understand that our military aid is like a fraction, a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what the U.S. spent in Afghanistan or spent in, in the Middle East. It's tiny. But, I think that we have a very strong economy, we have a very strong arms industry, and it's true that even though we get what we get, which we appreciate, 80% of that is spent in the United States. So it produces jobs in the United States. But nevertheless, I'd like to see a much more independent Israeli, and even more independent Israeli defense industry. And remember that Israel doesn't ask others to fight for us. Israel is the one American ally in the world that says, we need boots on the ground. We don't need American servicemen fighting, on the ground for Israel or around Israel. We're fine.
I guess he thinks we forgot that we bombed Iran for them.
Well, and also that young prime minister, wasn't he in Congress in 1996 asking us to help with Iraq?
Oh, yes. Yes, he was explaining to us, and then he was also warning us about Libya, and he was telling us about how Iran is about to, create a nuclear weapon, and they're going to attack the West. They were telling us that for decades, as Pat Buchanan reminded Sean Hannity back when this was being said. He's been saying this for 20 years. But also, yes, Iraq, of course, pushing us into war with Iraq. So, but now suddenly we don't need you anymore?
Right. Here is Laura Loomer warming us up for this message. She says, I've been in the region. After being here, I feel Israel must end its dependence on aid. It's been great, guys. It's been fun. We don't need it. Here she said it again today. Netanyahu is absolutely right. We need to cut off all aid to Israel. It's going to be really great.
But she says no more Israel needs to be sovereign. No more golden handcuffs from the United States. She said, this is what I said when I returned from Israel this week. So the golden handcuffs thing made me laugh because to me, golden handcuffs mean that you are in a great position. Like let's say you work for a company. It's just been an incredible run.
You're like a real housewife of New Jersey.
Actually, I looked at it this way. So back when I worked at Fox in Los Angeles many, many years ago, there was a young producer that was working there. And she said, why would you want to go off and be a reporter and go off away from here? She said, it's like golden handcuffs. She's like, you make great money, but you're kind of locked in here. And that's the way I always look at it. Like you're sort of being oppressed in a way because you're just sort of locked in. You can't go off and do your own thing. Mm-hmm. And so what she's basically saying is that we have somehow held them back. We've held them back from...
What did we stop them from doing?
From realizing what? We've literally facilitated every freaking war that you've asked us to facilitate. We took out and decapitated the leadership in Libya, which is now a hellhole. We've done the same thing in Iraq and Afghanistan. And anything else you want us to do? You want to play us...
We installed ISIS in Syria?
We played along with your plans to create and fund Hamas. I mean, we've done everything. What else have we done? Oh, I know. We literally went along with your plan to bomb one of our own ships, the USS Liberty. So we've done everything you've asked us to do.
Well, maybe this is a clue. Can we put that first Loomer tweet up when she says, I think we must end our independence, and I felt this way after being along the Syrian border. Is it because Israel wants Syria? And she's like, well, we can't have this. The United States probably won't allow it, but they want Syria?
That's what I tweeted at the time, because we would get in the way of this Greater Israel project, right? The Greater Israel project.
No, we wouldn't. We would let them do whatever.
No, I mean, I don't know. You hear Trump saying that like a few weeks ago, like, absolutely, we're not going to allow them to annex the West Bank.
You believe that?
No, I like to believe. I'm a glass half full kind of person. I mean, even J.D. Vance was like, absolutely not, full stop.
Okay.
Like, all right. I know, but I mean...
Name one thing we've stopped them from doing because it was morally wrong. Raping Palestinians? No, we let them do that.
No.
Waging war on our own people? We let them do that. I'm leaving out the more out there... 9/11? No, that's,
Complete control of Congress? No. And save a few, Thomas Massey otherwise. So, yeah, I guess you're right.
Okay.
I mean, you have to be an idiot to not understand that.
And honey, you are not an idiot. Okay, here is a video that went viral overnight, and I'm warning you, it is just so cloying and obnoxious and patronizing. It's an Israeli influencer speaking to the Groypers, the Nick Fuentes fans, and saying you should stop blaming the Jews because the Jews are oppressed just like you. In fact, we were the first to be oppressed. You don't see we should be allies. She says that stopping aid to Israel won't do anything because there's other government corruption, which is fair, but it would at least stop us from, waging wars in Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, all the places we just named. Anyway, listen to her lecture. See what you think.
They think you're too stupid to actually do the math. Stop falling for it. If you want to see who's getting the money that could sponsor a new industrial policy, we're not the droids you're looking for. There is a whole universe of subsidies and unfair regulations and just other nakedly irrational, heartless policies holding back the kind of unifying and populist economic policy that I know you want. So if foreign aid to Israel were stopped, which I think it should be, that money would just go straight into increasing what those other more powerful lobbies get.
Okay.
She's so, this girl, I'm curious, this girl just kind of came out of nowhere in the past few weeks. It's like she's been elevated suddenly. I'm always curious about the algorithm and how this thing works. Like, who are these people, these pro-Israeli voices that suddenly get amplified and they're pushed out there? Reading her bio, she's like, I've been on Fox News. I'm a Fox News person. So you know exactly what this establishment news people are. And, again, these are the worst of the worst. she's on the same talking points now. So I'm curious, like, where all the same talk, like literally 4 weeks ago, it was the opposite. Our funding of Israel gives us a lot in return. They're our greatest ally. And of course, John Mearsheimer in his great book, The Israel Lobby, like you should read it if you want to educate yourself. And he makes the point there is zero benefit. There's zero. In fact, it's detrimental to the United States to support Israel. To do whatever.
Talks about the John Mearsheimer book. Okay, you've read the Israel Lobby. It's not real. So, then in her sort of, cloying, pedantic, like she's trying to relate to young men who are pissed that they're being stolen from by the federal government that cares more about foreign wars than their future. And she's like, not us. Don't blame us.
Well,
We're
and she
the
also,
same.
she needs to take those Star Wars references out of her mouth.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
You got to get Will Smith up there to smack it out of her mouth.
Also, I think it's super weird that in this same, like, this is my hope for you. I'm not really afraid for you. She says, I'm afraid for you because bad things are in your future. I'm not afraid for us because Jews always survive. My people have been through worse. We don't care, really. We're oppressed, but we're not. We can take it, basically. This is my most sincere
video I've ever made.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm sitting,
diatribe for you, but then take a look here. Also, here's my lip gloss.
By the way, if you're curious about what lip gloss I'm wearing, here's my lip gloss. This is the way. So yeah, this is my most impassioned video. I'm going to sit in front of a darkened wall with just one light on me. And by the way, she's reading a script. You can clearly see that she's reading a script.
Well, it's on her Substack. You can read it along with you if you want. Yeah.
Anyway.
So anyway, okay, so again, these are the talk. We've established that we're going to start hearing this, that, I'm with you. Israel should cut off aid. I don't think that we can take it seriously. Number one, the White House hasn't said, great, we'll stop the checks tomorrow. Nothing, right? And is it even possible for Israel to continue on these terms? I think most of us would have thought that if we stop aid to Israel, it would take some really punk rock politician that we don't have or a total implosion of our system. Could it be just like this? Like, okay, we'll walk away. Well, according to most military experts, Israel has depleted most of their weapons stock. So they can't just leave it there unprotected. I don't think that they're willing to do that. But maybe Israel's looking for a new baby daddy. Maybe they have one. Any guesses who might be willing to take that title? Baby daddy of Israel? Anybody? Any guesses? Who?
I'm sorry, baby daddy of Israel.
Randy Fine?
No, a country. It has to be a country.
India.
Yes.
Well, Randy Fine kind of is a country, but...
Okay. Yes. So did you know that according to reports, India is now supplying Israel with about $200 million in arms per year? And take a look at that trajectory. It is increasing every year with a crescendo in 2023 in the wake of October 7th. Now, $200 million, that sounds like a lot. It's really not, though, compared to what the U.S. sends, according to a Quincy Institute study that calculated U.S. aid to Israel only through September 2025, since the start of the October 7th war. No, we're sending billions. So India can send their cute little millions, but our total is in the billions. 33 billion. So when any Israeli official floats the idea that they can pivot away from the U.S. to other partners like India, that's fantasy. India is a friendly buyer, occasionally a supplier, not a strategic substitute. No country on earth is delivering what the U.S. delivers in volume, speed, logistics, intelligence, or precision ammunitions than the United States. So can Israel realistically just say, okay, we'll stop now? Great, that's fine. You don't like it? No, this seems like a ploy to speak to what they call the woke right, get them on the back foot and say, we're white, we agree with you. And then what? They're speaking to the American public, which is demanding a breakup. They're not really going to do it. So what? What do you think? Like, what is the game here? What are they playing at, as the English would say? Let me know what you think.
That's fascinating. I don't know. I just love the timing of all of this, as if we're stupid. like suddenly they're all on the same talking points. Laura Loomer goes to Israel, then she suddenly feels this. And then all of these Israeli these pro-Zionist accounts are all saying the same thing. And then Netanyahu comes out and says the same thing. Like, it's It's all very curious, and I don't believe in coincidences on this show at all. So I'd really like to know who's behind it. Like, what meeting did they have? Like, these are your new marching orders. These are your new talking points.
Yeah. Again, as a married person, this is a very disarming tactic. But I'm not willing to let it go because I'm a wife. So I'm see right through it. Yeah.
And I will never let things go.
And I will not let this go. Also, I see what you're doing, and I don't believe it. So again, we're going to handle this with skepticism, but we see the PR as it comes out. We just don't quite understand it.
Someone in the, we were talking about this person on this algorithm was suddenly like boosted out of the blue. Like, where did this person come from? Who's like a Fox News contributor. Like, no one cares. No one cares about Fox. No one cares about the mainstream media anymore. It's a dying thing. So who cares? Put that in your bio, for crying out loud. Someone in our chat room was like, yeah, I saw the report like 2 years ago, Redacted exploded in the algorithm. Like, it was like flat and then it just exploded. Like, what are you talking about? First of all, this channel is like, I don't know, like 10 years old. Like, we've been around for a long time. And no, it was not like just sudden explosion. It's been like a slow growth for years on this channel. But anyway, whatever. By the way, we're blocked and banned and censored on a regular basis. So what help are we getting from YouTube?
That would be nice.
I would love to hear that. By the way, I literally had a viewer write me overnight saying he tried to watch our show and they shut his account down because he was trying to watch our show. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, they're really coming after you and censoring you. But YouTube is promoting us? Mm-hmm. YouTube banned us covering the COVID vaccine. YouTube banned us for reading Pfizer's own documents on our show. YouTube banned us for covering the lies that Zelensky and the Ukrainian military and the CIA and CNN were pushing about Bucha and all sorts of other BS in Ukraine. So
yep, that happened.
Yeah, so we're not getting any help from YouTube. Let me just be clear about that. Anyway, sorry. I thought that was hilarious. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk about hormones now. The Department of Health and Human Services announced this week that it would remove longstanding warning labels from hormone replacement therapy for women. This is for menopausal women who start to go through changes and then replace those with synthetic hormones. Now, previously, those labels warned about an association with breast cancer and other contraindications. It seems to me that by removing these warning labels, HHS is effectively rebranding hormone therapy as safe, dare I say, marketing it to women. This comes just after the White House announced that it would favorably price Ozempic and other injectable weight loss drugs, which have just as serious contraindication. Now, about this hormone thing, does HHS have new data suggesting that hormone replacement therapy is safe? They don't. What they did was convene a panel. So they just talked about it, went through the studies they currently have. Again, previous warnings date back to a Women's Health Initiative study from the early 2000s, which linked combined hormone therapy to an increased risk of breast cancer. Now they're saying that was overly broad and a bad study. But the association between HRT and breast cancer has not been disproven. And in fact, what HHS Secretary RFK Jr. is saying, it doesn't increase death from cancer, not the rate of cancer, but the mortality rate. So, okay, I still kind of don't want to get cancer. It feels like they are not allowing us to have full consumer consent. HRT covers a lot of, or carries a lot of other well-documented contraindication, elevated risk of blood clots and strokes and cardiovascular events. Another issue that, because, I'm entering that age, is I'm curious about it. There is no indication of how to ever safely go off. There are position statements from medical groups, and they're always like individual care, talk to your doctor and just see. But they're, use the lowest dose for the shortest amount of time. But there's no real data of like when you should know that it might be a risk. So a lot of times they just kind of keep you on it. This is a very profitable change for Pfizer, Novo Nordisk, again, both also makers of the injectable drug. So it's worth asking, why are they getting all these favorable deals from the White House? And are we really given informed consent? Now, of course, the loss of estrogen when you do enter menopause comes with all sorts of risk, which is why women deserve to be told the full story. from my research, and I have read several books about this, here's what the data says about HRT. You may be screwed if you do, and you may be screwed if you don't. That's what we need to know, ladies. Joining me to discuss is Dr. Marian Mast. She's a pediatrician who has studied hormones and has her own story. So what do you think of my summary there, that it's a risk either way?
Well, any medication has side effects, right? And, then if you're talking about a medication, you want to think about a medication. I'd rather have something that has been used for a while that we have some good data on, right? Now, this hormone replacement therapy that they're talking about and taking off the black box labels, it's not necessarily saying everyone should be on it, but women now can start to become aware that there are some good things that the hormone replacement therapy does. And by the way, I have no conflict here. I'm a pediatrician, as you know. I'm coming to you to talk as a patient because I went on hormone replacement therapy about 10 years ago. What happened to me was I had a nasty hot flash. I went through menopause early. My family goes through it early. I had a hot flash that caused me to pass out, faint, hit my head against a doorstop. I ended up with 4 staples in the head. When I tried to push up, I fell forward onto my hand, raking my forehead across my fingernails. And then I ended up with 4 stitches in my head and an ER visit. It was kind of funny, actually. It was 6 a.m. I woke 3 teenagers and my husband with a whoop when I hit the floor. Oh. And I think they all thought I fell down the steps, kind of amusing. Yeah. But my doctor said, hey, look, when you look at the studies on the hormones, the hormone replacement therapy, they're actually not very convincing. And that 2002 study that you referenced, it was very faulty, the conclusions they made. Our FDA commissioner, Marty McCary, wrote a whole chapter in his book about this. Blind Spots is the title of the book. But essentially, we're getting back to math here. I heard you talk about it in your last segment. But it's stats 101 when you look at the confidence interval, which, it was a big confidence interval from the study that they extrapolated from. And then it seemed like a very small group of men were making the decision, oh, yeah, this looks like it increases breast cancer. But when you go back and then you look at the data, hormone replacement therapy reduces brain fog. It increases sleep. It decreases your risk of Alzheimer's. You decrease your risk of fractures. Not just as a patient myself, but my own mother had Alzheimer's, fell, fractured 3 vertebrae. Before she got Alzheimer's, she fell and fractured a bone when she was like 75, carrying my child. She walked around on it for a good day and a half before she told anyone that it was hurting. That's what Ukrainian stock does, I suppose. She was part Ukrainian. Yeah. But, I think that there's a lot of benefits. I did hear you say you need to talk to your own doctor, and that's 100% true, because you are 100% right that there is a risk of blood clots. So if you have clotting disorders, if you have other reasons why this could be a problem for you, sure, you need to go there. Endometriosis, side effects. And I heard you bring something up where you said about the hormone injections. I think it's really important for patients to ask, what kind of hormones are you putting me on? Because if you're putting someone on the pelleted injections that they're doing, that's very expensive. If you're talking about oral hormone replacement, this isn't going to be making lots of money for anyone, especially if you, sidestep those middlemen, pharmacy benefit managers that make the drugs very expensive that I like to write about myself. So yeah, I think we have to have the nuanced discussion. I'm really glad they brought it up. I mean, you think about all those women that lost the opportunity. Wouldn't you want to sleep better if you could? Wouldn't you want to avoid Alzheimer's?
Yeah, but I came from a generation that was not given informed consent about the birth control pill. It was marketed to us as a way to regulate your period and control acne. And we were not informed about the higher risk of stroke and, the litany of things, right? And so I am concerned whenever women are told that this is a good thing. And again, and a lot of my research, I read The New Menopause by Mary Haver, she's sort of a popular Instagrammer about menopause. And I have an idea of the data, and she says very clearly there's no indication to go off of it. So my fear is that you could get on something like this and think, I feel great, I can't ever come off of it, and you will never know when that turns sour in your body, when you've gone too long. There's just no way to know, and it doesn't seem like there's an appetite to study that.
I guess I can't say that there's not an appetite to study it. My own physician, and I'm just telling personal information here. They suggested about 5 to 6 years, and they told me we don't know how long. But based on the fact that I went into menopause early, we do know that you really, from the studies that we have, and mind you, you're 100% right. The science is never settled. That's what real science is. It's never settled. I mean, geez, like I took baby aspirin when I was a kid when I had a fever, and then in the 1970s we discovered Reye syndrome, and put a kid in the ICU. Kids aren't the same as adults. Women aren't the same as men. So I mean, I think you're right. We have to be careful. We have to be prudent. But I do think there's a lot of compelling data that this might be good. This might improve things like depression. This definitely looks like it has. It's giving women a lower risk of heart attacks. That's a much bigger killer in women than anything else. I mean, most of your listeners, are you surprised to hear that? We always think about heart attacks with men, but women, it's high too. And, honestly, I'll tell you, Natalie, I'm glad we're talking woman to woman. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big drug person. I'm actually not on a single prescription drug right now, and I'm 57 years old. And, I'm married to a surgeon. We have 2 prescription pads, right? We have 3 children in their 20s. They've had a total of 5 rounds of antibiotics between the 3 of them. I could tell you every time they got antibiotics, because we're not big prescription drug people. But I do think that when you've gone through menopause, and I won't get personal and ask you if you have, frankly, I thought it was worse. I thought it was worse than puberty. I've gone through both. I ought to know, I did get the brain fog. I did have that, I'm a pretty, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a gardener, I'm an advocate for healthcare costs, and I work as a doctor, and I work, I need to be on my toes, snap. I don't like the idea of taking a substance every day for the rest of my life. I always think like getting on something for forever is not a great idea. But I do think that removing the warning is a great idea. They even had the warnings on vaginal creams. Yeah. Did you know that?
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was absolutely no reason to have that. And it was just strange. I mean, to me, when you read that chapter in McCary's book, and McCary is a dude, but it seemed like a whole bunch of dudes were like, okay, we want to, it's how it seemed to me. We want an article in JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, and we're going to look at this data, and we're going to get it out there, and we're just going to tell people. And they changed a whole generation of prescribing habits. Now, also, I will add, I really was so happy that I had a doctor that even before this, years ago, this is 9 years ago, said, hey, look, I looked at those studies and I didn't think that they were so great. I mean, we need more doctors like that, right?
Yes.
Where people are questioning the science. Yeah. Because I think one of the shocking things here is that very few people squawked. I mean, there was one guy actually who did squawk, and he was removed from that. He had a chairmanship at that Women Health initiative, and he had his chairmanship removed because he squawked. He was against the orthodoxy. What a terrible way to run science. Who the heck are these people anyway?
Yeah. I guess, I don't want to see the conversation about the risks pushed down, because now the Trump administration is saying, we know that this is safe, because like you've pointed out, there are definitely risks, and we don't know how long women can get off on these and stay on them safely. And so that's my concern, is that it's like, well, everyone thinks it's safe now. And that's definitely not a direction to go in, because, women of a certain age need to be given informed consent. I did see this week that there was a journal in JAMA about women who used hypnosis, had better symptoms. So there is, surprisingly, an appetite to study alternatives. So at least I'm glad to see that hasn't died down, because there's a profitable way to go straight into the pharmaceuticals. Fair,
very fair.
Yeah.
Great conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind telling you, I have not gone through menopause yet. I'm 47, and and if we're sharing, I had 3 babies, so that put off my ovulation. I got longer to go. I still got some to get rid of. So, but it's definitely a topic of interest, and especially, like I said, when we have so many synthetic hormones already being pushed, I have a lot of concern about putting my daughters on any synthetic hormones, and so it's definitely you can't just take the government's word for it and be like, well, it's safe now, fine. And I'm done. I don't have to research it.
Oh my goodness. After COVID, anyone who takes the government's word on anything, that was just so painful to watch. And, and the other thing too, I think, Natalie, is I guess one of the best things you could do, get a trusting relationship with a doctor if you can. And, I never discourage people from, a lot of doctors are angry, like, oh, these people, they say they do their own research. I don't diss that. I mean, I meet patients all the time that tell me, I've done a lot of reading and this is why I chose, not to get this vaccine, or why. I'm actually really grateful when I have a patient that comes in that is relieved when I don't have to give them the antibiotic, when they're not just seeking the drug. The drug is the quick, easy answer. But I think what this does is this gives us an opportunity to perhaps look at some good science. And, another thing that's really interesting about this, and McCary brought it up in his book, the way that we learn in medicine, it pretty much happens through an organization called the AAMC, the American Accreditation Medical Council, or something like that. I'm going to forget the letters. But, essentially the organization, the CME, they have to accredit the CME, like the continuing medical education that we take. And the CME, a lot of it comes from, the American Academy of Pediatrics. It's, approved. The American Board of Pediatrics makes us do various things. I'm a pediatrician. I don't swallow everything those people give me. Clearly, you can take a look. They're pushing some hormone blockers that I don't think are necessarily the greatest idea. And we have no studies on that. How terrible is that?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, I could talk about hormones all day, every day. I'm just a mom who reads a lot about, what they're trying to push on my kids. So maybe another time. Thank you so much for coming on Redacted. It really was a pleasure to talk to you about this. Girl Talk.
I would come on anytime to Girl Talk. I love it. Take care.
All right. Coming up, we're going to talk about economic alarm bells that are going off. Right now, we have a guest who's going to tell us about, okay, here we go, printing money. What's this going to mean for us? But before we do that, we want to tell you about our friends over at Genucel, because Thanksgiving is a couple weeks away, ladies and gentlemen, so there's still enough time to get rid of any turkey neck or saggy neckline, get compliments around the dinner table. If you haven't tried Genucel's breakthrough neckline lift with MDL technology, then maybe pick up the phone or head on over to Genucel.com/redacted right now. If you order today, Genucel will include their immediate effects for results that you can see in 12 hours. And for Thanksgiving, Genucel's offer gets even better. You can get the top-selling Genucel Deep Firming Vitamin C Serum included in the Essential Package. You can give thanks this holiday for 10 years off your appearance. Everyone will see the difference, guaranteed, or your money back 100%. That's the Genucel promise. So head on over to Genucel.com/redacted. One more time, that's Genucel.com/redacted. And from now until Thanksgiving, you'll get their brand new Gua Sha massager with red light therapy to amplify your results. Also, shipping is free, if I didn't already say that. So check it out for yourself. It's Genucel.com/redacted. One more time, Genucel.com/redacted.
Well, yesterday it happened. After 232 years, the United States of America is no longer printing pennies. Yes, the U.S. Mint has made the last penny. Here it was, the moment when it was coming off the assembly line, I guess, at the U.S. Mint. And it's, to me, when I saw this, I thought, this is really a metaphor, right? This is more of a metaphor about where the U.S. economy is going. It has nothing to do with the penny. It's really about the U.S. dollar declining faster than the Titanic, central banks hoarding gold and silver. The U.S. is just admitting that pennies are virtually worthless now, so why even print them? The U.S. is $38 trillion in debt with no end in sight. Many are predicting that we are heading for an economic catastrophe, the likes of which we haven't seen since 1929, and a lot of people are dancing around it right now. One person who's not been dancing around it, he's been warning us all, about what's coming is Kevin DeMeritt. He's the founder of Lear Capital. Of course, knee deep in gold and silver is your specialty, and you've been watching what the central banks have been doing. You've been watching the printing of money in the United States. You're very close to the housing sector, so you have your hands in all of this. Kevin, welcome to the show. I mean, am I wrong when I see this like penny printing process? It's not about the penny. It's really a metaphor for the broader economy, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, look, pennies are just worthless anymore, so you might as well go to a nickel. A nickel is now a penny, and I guess no more penny for your thoughts, right? We're going to have to go to a nickel for your thoughts. So inflation's really taking hold.
I was even thinking $10. Like I was thinking about, when you used to give like a quarter for like a tooth fairy for your children. And it's like our daughter like lost her tooth, like and we had to call in the tooth fairy, and it was like, slide a dollar under there because like inflation's even hitting the tooth fairy, for crying out loud. This is where we're at right now.
Yeah. Kids don't even pick up the quarters on the ground anymore.
So let's talk about the debt, because this is the big issue right now, and the numbers are slowly starting to come together here, and it's actually really, really troubling. The U.S. national debt has now climbed to $38 trillion. It's up from roughly $10 trillion just a few years ago in 2008, and now we're paying over $1 trillion a year in interest. How does that level of debt reshape the economy and the outlook for ordinary Americans who are struggling to pay their rent right now?
Well, if you believe the dollar's going to stabilize or get more valuable in the next 10 years, you're absolutely kidding yourself. That's why central banks around the world right now are hoarding gold and silver. And if they could hoard other assets like real estate, they probably would. But, gold happens to be the asset that they can hoard. That's why we're seeing those record highs. Nobody wants to hold a dollar when we went from $10 trillion to almost $40 trillion in a matter of, basically 20 years. So what does that really do? Number one, you're always going to have $1 trillion deficit now because you've got $1 trillion in interest payments that we have to borrow just for the interest payment alone. You got to go borrow $1 trillion a year. But secondarily, if you also believe that inflation is going to stop or slow down significantly, you're also just absolutely kidding yourself because you don't understand how inflation, inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. They've pumped up all this money in the economy. And at the same time that they've done that, you also have central banks selling dollars to purchase precious metals. Where do those dollars go when they sell them? They come right back to the United States, which adds to the money supply, which exacerbates inflation. So that's what's happening on a global basis. Nobody wants a dollar, so they're selling it. The dollars are coming here, and inflation's more sticky, and people are wondering why. Well, that's one big reason, and the government can't control themselves, so they cancel pennies and continue to print next year $2.2 trillion in a deficit. So it's completely absurd, and nobody should be surprised that gold is hitting these record highs, or that Bank of America or Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan are predicting $5,000 gold for 2026. Everybody thought we were nuts when I was on the program talking that, silver should hit $50 an ounce. That was only a few months ago. I literally had calls from people saying, oh, silver's done nothing, which I don't know why they were saying that, but you're nuts. It's not going to go back to 50. And here we are at $50 an ounce again.
Right. I mean, for a few years now, we've had you on the show. We've talked about, we started buying gold. Natalie and I, it was $1,800, $1,700 an ounce for gold. Now it's well over $4,000. We have all these predictions from these big banks because they know what's coming. As we say on the show, smart money is moving. So last night, President Trump had all these bankers at the White House for like a big dinner. He had JP Morgan Sachs there, JP Morgan Chase there. He had Blackstone, huge buyer, of course, of real estate. So it seemed like, oh, it's just a friendly dinner. But no, something's going on. Something's happening right now. And if you look at these numbers, you brought up the federal deficit, projected to hit $2.2 trillion in 2026, according to the OMB. The CBO number expects the deficit to stay above 6% of GDP for years to come. So what does that tell you about where we're headed? Like, what do you think was being talked about last night with Trump and these bankers?
Well, look, you're going to have a recession. We're definitely in some sort of a bubble here. I mean, the stock market's at record levels, at numbers that we haven't seen since 1929, 2008, 2002, or 2000 with the dot-com bubble. So what are the options to try to help the economy when you get this recession that's going to come at some point? I can't tell you exactly when, but I know it's coming. It always comes. What are the options? Well, the Federal Reserve can lower interest rates, but interest rates are fairly low and inflation's too high to lower them too much more, because the real rate, real interest rates would be the rate that you're getting from, let's say, a 10-year bond minus the rate of inflation. Right now, it's break even. So if you're making 4% and you paid your taxes, you're probably losing money slowly. You're just going broke slowly with that avenue. So what are the other options? If we can't lower interest rates, and the other thing is to print money. What are we going to do? Print money to $80 trillion? Look, the dollar would be worth zero. We'd be getting rid of, quarters, dimes, nickels. We'd be getting rid of everything because the dollar would be worth a penny. Central banks around the world would be getting rid of it. The dollar would be collapsing. Inflation would be high. What do you do? You better have some smart minds in there, smart guys in there trying to figure this out. And the real smart guy is probably Elon Musk. He got in there. He wanted to lower all of the spending that the government was doing. That's the smartest idea, and nobody wants to really do it.
Right. I mean, you had Congressman Thomas Massey. You had all these, rhinos in Washington who purport to be conservative, but you have like Thomas Massey, Senator Rand Paul, like very few on the Republican side who were saying we've got to cut spending. Keep the government shut down, for crying out loud. And we've got to pull back on all of this runaway spending. And then you hear about the tariff money coming in. Now we're going to cut $2,000 stimulus checks for people using this tariff dividend. Why not pay down the deficit? Why not shrink the size of government? I think that's what people voted for overwhelmingly. We're going to shrink the size of government, create a DOJ department, cut billions and billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. Doesn't look like that's really happening at all. And the money machine just keeps printing.
Tough to do. And for anybody that believes that we are getting near the end of the rope here, I mean, the can has been kicked so far down the road that, we're at the end of the road and it's a one-way street. It's a dead end. If they can't get this spending under control and we get through a recession, think to yourself, what are the options for the government to get the economy back on track? It's only printing more money. So I'm going to tell you, when you see JP Morgan talking about precious metals, okay, fine. They own one of the biggest hoards of silver of any investment bank out there. So if they're talking about precious metals, they have a reason to talk about it. If you get Blackstone or some of those other people talking about a completely different story, when you get Goldman Sachs starting to talk about precious metals and predicting gold at $5,000 an ounce in 2026, you should listen, because they have an enormous amount of information. They could care less about the precious metals market. They don't really deal in precious metals all that much. But their analysts are out there saying, hey, with the central bank buying, with all of the things we have going on in the economy, some institutions and some very wealthy people and smart investors are coming into the market because they know that the dollar can't go anywhere but down. Interest rates probably hover below the rate of inflation. It's just horrible for savers and horrible for investors when we finally get this next recession, and everybody needs to get prepared for it. And I think that's why, President Trump had the bankers and the smart guys in there trying to figure out, what are we going to do if this economy starts pulling back? And it already is, by the way. I mean, you start to see it in the real estate market. You're starting to see it. Chipotle can't pull in enough people to keep their sales growing at a fast enough pace. I mean, you got the quick serve companies that are the most successful having problems with people coming in and spending. Usually that's a problem.
Well, and this morning we just got word Verizon laying off, I think the number is 15,000 employees. What does that tell you? I mean, God knows people are attached to their phones like it's a third limb. The fact that like Verizon is cutting back on tens of thousands of employees tells you a couple things. Number one, consumer spending is declining, but it also says like AI is rising. So all of these 15,000 employees probably have some sort of AI connection, right? That they're no longer needed. So we're seeing a total shift in this economy towards AI. Massive layoffs coming from a number of different companies right now. And then we just got word today, Kevin, that those October jobs numbers, the Trump administration is basically saying, hey, we might not ever be able to release the data from October and they're blaming it on the government shutdown. So we might never get those numbers, the jobs numbers, how the economy is doing from October. It all sounds very convenient, but they might be right. Like with the government shutdown, it's a mess.
Yeah, I mean, you have a couple of things. You have the household survey and you have the establishment survey. And the household survey is really for unemployment. The establishment survey is really for payrolls. And if you're the Federal Reserve and you need those numbers to adjust interest rates, and you adjust the interest rates and don't have any of that data, I don't know why you would do it. I mean, you need this information to make that decision. Without it, I literally don't know how you'd make the decision. But it is hard because this household survey and the establishment survey, or some portions of it, are physical surveys. They go out to households and businesses and they survey them, and then we get the information. So I can understand that it could be a little bit of a pain in the neck to try to go backwards and get this information. But what are the risks of not having it, or what are the risks of getting it and having it incorrect? Well, inflation, we got to get that right. The labor, we got to get that right. Without those numbers, then the Federal Reserve and the stock market can't assess risk properly to adjust either prices in the stock market or interest rates. So we got to have these numbers, Clayton. But you brought up AI and these 15,000 people from Verizon. Amazon just laid off 15,000 people. Right. And the reason that they said they laid it off, it's exactly what you said, AI. If we go into recession, how do you get people back to work? AI is just, continually taking over people's jobs, over and over and over. So I'm nervous that we go into recession and the Feds, what they concentrate on most is inflation and unemployment. And if unemployment can't get back on track because of AI, then what do you do? Universal income, and the deficit goes higher and higher and higher. How do you get those people back to work? I have no idea.
They're not going to go back to work, right? I mean, again, you see with how many millions of Americans are on SNAP benefits. We saw this, of course. It shined a light deeply on our U.S. economy when you have, over 40 million Americans on SNAP benefits in the United States. They want a universal basic income. They want us to stay home. They want to control us. They want to have a universal digital ID structure moving into this corral, as Catherine Austin Fitts likes to say. They're moving us slowly into this corral where they can control everything. Digital ID, make sure they're tracking all of your spending. Oh, and by the way, they'll provide you with some sort of a Fed universal basic income, so you get a few $1,000s a month from that. And then on top of that, of course, you get free food and SNAP benefits. So this is where it's headed, where they can have these people totally reliant on the government, and then they'll vote Democrat because of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You get a digital currency, and that is scary. I mean, we could have a whole conversation on that. You can immediately raise taxes on a local basis, on a federal basis. They watch your spending. If you're not spending enough, then they can have this negative, taking money out of your account. That's happened in Europe. Hey, if you're not spending it, you're saving too much, then we're going to reduce the savings rate to a negative rate. I mean, there's a bunch of things that they can do with digital currency that a lot of people, need to be aware of.
Well, you're in the gold business. I mean, this is what you've made. You've been around for many, many decades in the gold and silver business. You've been warning us all about at least having some precious metals. And I didn't own precious metals until up maybe a number of years ago. And I finally realized, I need to do this. I need to start taking some of my savings and getting it out of US dollars. And I started to put it into gold and silver. I was glad that it went up in value, of course. But that's not why I did it. I did it for wealth preservation. I thought of it as like a vault, because for 5,000 years, gold and silver has sustained itself as a wealth preservation tool despite all of these government currencies collapsing, right? So it's great that it goes up in value, but for me, it's been a vault for my family, to protect my family for its future and all of that. So now you see these states. I wanted to get your take on this, Kevin, which is a number of states are now saying, hey, you can now transact in gold, not just US dollars. I think there's up to 6 states now. I think Florida just added to that list. Maybe Texas also added to that list. Yep. So now you can actually use gold and silver and transact. I mean, what are your customers or clients saying about that?
look, I think everything's going in that part of it's going in the right direction. You know, if central banks are hoarding gold, and gold's been around as a currency for 5,000 years, it's done a heck of a lot better than the paper dollar has. Why not use it as a currency? I mean, people are using Bitcoin and it has nothing backing it, right?
Right.
So people should understand that at this particular point, we are at the end of a cycle as the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. I mean, there's been 6 other world reserve currencies. They all lasted approximately 110 years, and we're kind of at the end of that. And they all failed for the exact same reason, debt. Every single one of them failed for the exact same reason. The government piled on debt in the end. Nobody appreciated or trusted in the currency, and they all failed. That's literally where the United States seems to be headed unless somebody gets in there and stops all this money printing. And if they don't, then don't be surprised if you think I'm a nut today and gold ends up being $7,000 or $8,000 an ounce. It may sound nutty, but a lot of people thought it was nutty when it was $255 an ounce in 2000. And I said, hey, the price of gold should be a couple of $1,000s an ounce. That's where it should be based on the debt in the United States government and where it's headed. And here we are at $4,000 an ounce. So there is a long way to go for precious metals when you think about how small the precious metals market is compared to how big the currency market is. Just a small portion, 2 or 3% of the currency making a shift into the precious metals market, and you're at $6,000 or $7,000 an ounce. So Goldman Sachs coming out and saying $5,000 an ounce it's a drop in the bucket. I might be $5,500 next year.
Jeez. And we're not saying, hey, everyone run out, take everything you've got, put it in precious metals at all. Like, just, you know, it's
diversification. It's just smart diversification, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 5 to 15%, maybe as high as 20%, depending on where you are. That's what you should have in precious metals. You should have some real estate. You should have some, you know, stocks. The greatest thing that happened to me in probably in my entire 37-year career in precious metals was in 2008 when we had an enormous amount of real estate investors, and 2 things happened. You had the real estate investor who had the buildings where he could afford the building. People have moved out. He didn't need the money to make, go pay the bank the mortgage, but he got to take advantage of real estate where people had, lost the real estate or now it was undervalued. He purchased precious metals. He was using that liquidity in precious metals at a very high number, $2,000 an ounce, to go buy real estate. Then you had the other guy who was losing his building because people have moved out. He couldn't make the mortgage payment, and he sold off gold to make the mortgage payment. And now that piece of real estate is much higher. What do you get from gold that you couldn't get from real estate at that particular time? Liquidity. It was hard to sell your real estate either at a loss because you had a loan on the property that was bigger than the value of the piece of property. And so they used that precious metals to offset it. When the stock market fell, precious metals skyrocketed. Your 20% that you had in precious metals turned out to be 40% with stocks going down and precious metals going up. We recommended sell off your portion, sell off the half of your precious metals and go buy stocks at record low levels. That's what you need to do. That's what's going to help you. So it's not owning all precious metals. It's diversifying and having something that gives you liquidity and an offset of what these other assets could potentially do coming up.
Yeah, and not having a U.S. dollar that's declining faster than the Titanic right now, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't want my family's future in U.S. dollars. I can tell you that.
Hey, you're holding dollars. You're just going broke slow. You've put it in a savings account or a CD. You're just going broke slow. You might feel better because you can look at it, but you're just going broke slowly. That's all that's happening.
Right, especially when your interest rate in the savings account is much lower than the rate of inflation. Every day your dollar is in there, it's actually losing value. People don't think about that. Kevin,
and at the end of the year, pay some tax on it.
Yeah, exactly. So where can people? We have a link that I want people to go and check out if they want to actually start investing in precious metals. You guys are fantastic, an American-based company. Can you tell people, you're also going to give them a bonus, I think, as well, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, 2 things. Go to the link, which learredacted.com, and they can call the 800 number as well. But if you go to learredacted.com, we're going to put a $500 credit into your account. everybody who either calls or goes to LearRedacted.com will automatically put a $500 credit into the account. You can use that for all the shipping, the insurance, to get the precious metals, because it's physical from us to your door or the depository if you wanted to keep it there. Or if you wanted to transfer a portion of your IRA or 401k into physical precious metals, there's fees to do that, and you can use the $500 to cover all of the fees for establishing the IRA, along with transferring the precious metals to that. So, you're the only program we do this for, but everybody's going to get a $500 credit into the account for that.
Awesome. Well, you guys have been amazing. As I've always been transparent. You guys are who we buy our precious metals through. We have been doing that for years. So thank you for that. But I just want people to buckle up and really start paying attention to what's coming down the pike right now. And again, I'm really worried about the younger generation, because I look at my son right now, and I think these young people who are going to be entering the workforce in the next few years, it's like, maybe pick up a trade, focus on becoming an electrician, a plumber, some of these hard trades right now where you can learn a hard skill. Because with AI, we're going to need people with hard skills who can do construction, who can frame a house, who can, do electricity, who can all of that. Because I think we're at a very interesting moment in American history right now, and technological history. So buckle up, I guess, right?
Yeah, great advice. I mean, I think the trades are the place to be. And if it doesn't sound glamorous, own the whole plumbing company, make it a national company, make it glamorous. But I think you're right. The trades they're going to start coming back with this AI. It's absolutely incredible what it can do, but it's also very scary what it can do.
Yeah. No, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's got 9 businesses. He just sold one of them for $90 million. And all of them are he's like, they're not glamorous. They're just like trades. They're trades. Yeah. And he said, that's the future. I'm telling you, that's the future. And he said, if you can start to build a business in the trades, I don't care if it's a gutter cleaning business or a carpet cleaning business, or you're framing a house, or electrician company or plumbing company, that's the future of America right now. So yeah, it's fascinating. Kevin, thank you so much. Always great to see you, to get a pulse of what's happening in this economy. As always, thanks, Kevin.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And thanks to all of you for joining us here today. We really appreciate it. And great to have you here on this Thursday. Hey, we have a store. I'd love for you to check out our Redacted store. We've got some new stuff up there that we just added to the Redacted store. So, it's perfect for the holidays. You want to pick up a hoodie or a mug or a t-shirt for one of your loved ones. Time for the holidays, you can do that. We got some great mugs, hats, everything, but we added some new t-shirts up there as well. Plus one of our new hoodies, the Don't Tread on Me hoodie. So my son, I got him one of them, and his friends at school started ordering them because they wanted to wear them. They loved them so much in his high school. So now there's a bunch of teenagers walking around with a Don't Tread on Me hoodie for Redacted. I absolutely love that. America First Liberty. I love that. Anyway, check them out. Go to redactedstore.com. Check out everything there. And we hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back live on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, have a great weekend, everyone.